The main causes of the crisis, in my opinion, was the neoliberal policy itself. This was a framework that allowed the financial markets to become extremely powerful, to create a process that we call financialization, where the financial markets were able to lead the real economy and make the real economy, the workers, the firms, even the government, serve the needs of finance rather than the other way around. So when this happened, the financial markets took over the economy and led to a mountain of debt, speculation, and fraudulent crime. For example, the Bernard Madoff Ponzi scheme. And eventually, this all came crashing down. Now, if it had been confined only to the financial markets, it wouldn't have been such a huge problem. But because it had spread through the real economy, not only in the United States, but in Europe and elsewhere, it now threatens to bring down the whole economy. In the United States, which is the country that I know the best, it led to enormous inequality. So, for example, the top 1% of the population became extremely rich, whereas the most of the rest of the population had their standard of living stay more or less the same for the past 40 years or more. And what this did was that, so for your average person to be able to pay for health care and housing and education and serve his or her needs, they had to borrow a lot of money. And now that the whole system is coming crashing down, they can't pay the money back. In fact, the distribution of income in the United States is the worst than it has been since 1929, before the Great Depression. Now, this was multiplied throughout the world. So, for example, if you look at the global income distribution, what we'll see is that, for the most part, only the top small percentage around the world was able to make gains in the past 20 or 30 years, whereas the majority of the population either stayed the same or went down. So now what will happen as the economy enters a recession and possibly a depression, what you're going to see is more and more people are going to lose their homes, they're going to lose their jobs, they are going to, some people are not going to have enough to eat, so there'll be an increase in actual starvation and poverty around the world. So I think it threatens economically a very serious problem. Now, when you have such serious economic stress, that creates political stress. And what you typically see in a situation like this is an increase in child abuse. You see an increase in violence against women. You see ethnic violence and hatred increase. So you begin to see a worsening of a lot of social ills in a situation as we're experiencing now. I think that uh, the bill, the law that was passed by the House of Representatives, which now will have to be ratified by the Senate and then signed by Obama, is definitely headed in the right direction. It's going to provide more health benefits, more education benefits. It will repair schools. It will create more jobs in the green economy, those that will help the United States make a transition to a less carbon-based economy, which is very important. All of these, I think, are very positive. Unfortunately, in order to get political support for this legislation, they also had to implement a number of reductions in taxes, which I don't think are very effective in generating jobs. I don't think will be very effective in generating investment in infrastructure and green technology and so forth. So, as always, nothing's perfect. Also, I think this package may not be big enough. The United States is entering a very serious recession. And in order to replace the jobs that have been lost, I think we actually need a bigger stimulus package. The one passed by the House was 450 billion. Many economists are saying it really needs to be 600 billion. But it's heading in the right direction, which is much better than under the Bush administration when everything was headed in the wrong direction. So I'm some guardedly optimistic that if the population begins to see that this bill, this package, will start to turn the economy around, they'll have more faith in the government, and then the administration will be able to do more. So it's a good start, I think. The United States, in the past period, especially under Bush, but even before that, under Clinton, uh, wasted billions and billions of dollars in the huge military expenditure, where the United States spends more money on military than almost the rest of the world combined. If you add up all the expenditure of the rest of the world, it's just about the same as the United States spends by itself. They wasted, according to an estimate by Joe Stiglitz and his colleague, $3 trillion on the war in Iraq. And now there's going to be more spent in Afghanistan. In addition, the United States made major tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans and wasted billions of dollars on that. So over the last period, the United States has put itself in a very vulnerable position because it is borrowing billions of dollars from the rest of the world, especially China, India. Oil exporting countries are lending billions of dollars to the U.S. So now, how will the United States pay for this package? The only place it can get the money, really, is by continuing to borrow from the rest of the world. And it places the United States in a very vulnerable situation. Will the rest of the world, will China, India, the Middle Eastern countries, be willing to continue to lend money to the United States at a low interest rate? Nobody really knows. I'm somewhat optimistic, partly because if this package works, then the United States will become more profitable. It will generate profits, and so that will make the United States a good place to lend money, a good place to invest. But if these policies and other policies that need to be implemented do not work, then we could have a very serious problem where the United States will not be able to borrow this money.